Welcome back to another episode of Craft on Tap, where we talk about growth marketing for RIAs. I'm your host, Stephen Beach, the CEO of Craft Impact, and I have Faustin Weber as my co-host, one of our marketing strategists at Craft Impact. Today, we're going to talk about how financial advisory firms should optimize for ChatGPT and other LLMs. If you're an avid listener of this podcast, of which we have many, you probably have heard an episode about how to show up in AI search that's late summer, that came out in late summer, where we talked about, kind of differences between AI search and SEO and best practices to show up in the LLM. So this is really a refresh and some updates that, we wanted to share, some things that we're seeing with our clients and across the industry. We're going to reference a couple of studies. One of them is from a recent Kitsy's article that we thought was a really good topic to dive into. So yes, between that episode in late July and this episode, I think you'll be armed and ready to optimize. Really our goal is for you to be armed and ready to think about and prepare your firm for LLM search, if that is the right channel for you. And so we're going to talk about kind of the big picture before we dive into, like, here's all the best practices and all the things you need to do to show up in ChatGPT. There's a lot of considerations we should be talking about as it relates to your actual business and what we're really trying to do from a marketing perspective. So I'll kick it to Faustin. Faustin, you can please lead us through. I guess kick us off with that article that we've been talking about, and take it away.
Yeah, nice. So a lot has changed. A lot's still the same since we started talking about this during the early summer, late summer, when we put out that episode. The thing that really prompted this is,
sorry about
Brent
that.
Garnduff, who's an SEO person, and he works with a lot of advisors. He put out a really detailed article that was published on the Nerd's Eye View on the Kitsy's website. And as Stephen and I know well, getting published on the Kitsy's website is an arduous process, a lot of back and forth. So this is an extremely long form article that was just published yesterday, actually. Today's November 18th. And so I know that went back and forth for like a month and a half, 2 months before it was published. But he makes some really good points. It's really in depth. But I think there's just some nuances, I think, that are missing. And based on our work with clients and what we know in the space and the research that we're doing, following along as other people are learning more, we thought it would be prevalent to just give an episode to share kind of what we're thinking. So I think like the first thing that we have to understand just about ChatGPT, Gemini, and we're going to talk specifically here about ChatGPT. There's a difference between the types of searches or prompts that people put in terms of how ChatGPT reacts. And so the first principle that I want to talk about is just grounding versus not grounding, right? And so we all know that the LLMs are trained on these models of data and information, and those models are updated. The information's updated on a pretty frequent basis, but they're in the past. They're not yesterday. They're 6 months ago, 9 months ago, 12 months ago, depending on how quickly the update has come out. And more than not, the model wants to give the answer from the training data that it already has. If it thinks that it can give a good enough answer to satisfy the prompt, it will use the training data. When it grounds itself, that's when it says, I don't have enough information to be able to give a really good response, so I'm going to go to the search results. That's what's called grounding. So usually, right, and we've seen this even more with the 5.0 model for ChatGPT, the most updated model. Usually, the LLM will not ground. It will give a response based on what it has in the data. And so I think that's an important first nuance here that I think is missed in this whole conversation about showing up in AI results, is that informational searches, educational searches, I'm trying to find out more about Roth conversions. I'm 55 and I'm looking to do a Roth conversion. Can you tell me something about this right now? I'm looking for more information about how to assess health insurance plans coming into next year. ChatGPT feels like it can answer that question pretty accurately without having to turn to search results. It's not going to ground itself on the most recent information. And so that's super important when you're thinking about, okay, what should I spend in terms of time on my content marketing? Because if your number one goal is to show up in AI search results for topical educational information, most of the time the LLM's not going to cite you because it doesn't need to. It doesn't even need to go into search results. So I think that's important to understand, right? You can test this out. Start doing some different prompts around different topics that you might want to write about or share your expertise on. More often than not, it's not going to pull from any search results, so you're not going to show up. So I think that's an important first point. Steven, does that make sense, kind of how that grounding versus non-grounding?
Yeah, I think that's great. The only question I have is, what do we call it when it's just going? We just call it flying. It's not grounding. It's not coming back to Earth. So it's just flying along. Is that kind of what it is? It's like it's already got what it needs to go on its plane ride. So it's just flying. When it needs to come back to Earth and ground itself in something fresher, we call it grounding. These are just random, interesting marketing terms that people have made up because now we have LLMs.
Yeah,
right.
100%.
So it's just flying along.
Yeah, I don't
for the
know.
most
Flying,
part.
I think as long as it's flying, it doesn't need to ground itself.
That's
I think
right.
that's good. Okay, so here's the thing. Okay, so it doesn't ground itself, but so here's what the data is showing is that even when it needs to ground itself, like right, and what I mean by that is it goes to the search results. It consolidates the results, and we've shared in our last episode. There's a lot of evidence that ChatGPT, in particular, is using this RRF, this reciprocal rank fusion, to be able to consolidate all the information in the big results and then summarize it with the results. Even when it gives those sources, right, that you see, or if it cites the specific brand that it's pulling that information from, it's rarely leading to actual traffic to your site, meaning that people are rarely clicking on those sources in the links in ChatGPT and actually launching off to the article where they pulled the information from. I've seen graphs recently where it shows like AI search referral traffic like plateauing out across multiple industries, where there was a little bit of an uptick as more and more people adopted AI search up into the summer. But then this last quarter, it's kind of plateaued, right? Where like less people, there's less of an increase of people that are clicking in and actually viewing the article. And this makes sense, right? If you think about like how the LLMs are built, like old Google, the whole point of old Google was to be able to solve the search intent of the person searching by giving you the best possible link to answer the question, right? That's not how LLMs are built. Their purpose is to try to understand the intent of the prompt and be able to give the best possible answer right there in the platform. So there's nothing to incentivize someone to click in and view more about that particular topic. Like the AI is responding in a way that answers it. And so I think that's just a really important question here, right? To be able to keep at the forefront of any sort of work you're trying to do when you're trying to optimize your site for SEO or for AEO, ChatGPT search. Even if you show up, right? If your number one goal is traffic, it's a fool's errand as it relates to educational articles. Like the normal things that would have gotten us, 5-10 years ago, a lot of clicks into our site. Even if you're showing up, even if you're picking the right prompts that ground themselves and pull from the search results, very little of that traffic is actually going to your website.
Right.
There is some value in being referenced, your brand. It's nice to have your brand show up. It's nice to be in a source. But if your goal is to get people onto your website from that, it's not the best way to go. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Stephen.
That's good. Just I guess just as an update of which metrics we actually want to follow, which metrics we want to put in place together. Like if we're going to be your outsourced CMO, if we're going to really partner with you, I mean, traffic is not. If you're still measuring traffic and number of website visitors per month, you've probably got the wrong metric in place, and we should be talking about something else, which we're going to get to. So just at the highest level, right? If you're worried about traffic and you're worried about ranking so that you can generate more clicks to your website, you're looking at it completely wrong. It's just things have changed so quickly, in the world of AI and SEO, even, that you're just looking at the wrong metric now. So we've got to change what really matters for the business. So I'll just summarize that way.
Yeah, nice. I think that's important. I think like homepage visits, like homepage traffic is still pretty important. But to your point, the educational content, like those blog articles, again, they get referenced, they get sourced. They're not getting the clicks. Not getting the clicks from Google either that they were last year, the year before that. But for the purposes of this episode, they're definitely not coming in any sort of level of consistency from ChatGPT.
Right.
Okay, so I've seen just like article after article after LinkedIn post about how to structure your information within your blog articles in order to show up in these AI search. And I think structuring your information is really important. It's not going to move the needle that much in terms of driving traffic to that article, right? I mean, it's nice if your firm, if Craft Impact gets sourced as a response to something about SEO for financial advisors. That's kind of nice. It puts like the idea of the brand in their head. But if you're trying to optimize to get people to go to your blog article and read it so that they can convert and like go a middle of the funnel lead, it's not operating like that. And it makes sense, right? Because what you have on that blog article, AI has probably already put in the ChatGPT response. Mm-hmm. So I think that's just an important piece. Okay, so what does matter? As it relates to AI, like I really think the focus should be for ChatGPT, it should be bottom of the funnel searches, right? So what do I mean by bottom of the funnel? I mean someone's actively looking for an advisor or trying to compare advisors or actively looking for a service. That's different than trying to find out more information about the topic, right? That's like farther up in the funnel. That's what we're saying, not driving traffic. But for someone who's actively trying to compare brands, who's like looking for the best financial advisors in the Tampa, Florida area, or is looking for the best advisory group in San Carlos, California that can help with my stock options as an employee. Like those are the kinds of searches that you can still optimize for across your different navigation pages, across your persona pages. And so what we like to do, and what I would recommend doing, is think about your target audience, think about a bottom of the funnel type of prompt or query that they're actively looking for an advisor, and put that in. See what ChatGPT spits out. See if it grounds itself or not. If it doesn't ground itself, it's probably not a prompt worth optimizing for. If it does start going to search results and pulling in firms, then take it through the pathway. Inevitably, what ChatGPT wants to do is to create some sort of matrix or a chart where it shows the pros and cons of your firm, if you're lucky enough to get mentioned up at the top, but of all the firms that you're a competitor with. Those categories, the information that it puts in for each of those categories on the firms, that's how you optimize to show up for these bottom of the funnel searches. So here's an example. A category is pricing. Category is the type of advisor. A category is experience with stock options, right? Category is awards and accolades. Category is reviews and how people are being mentioned. Those are the things that ChatGPT is using, right, as a way to be able to share and evaluate and help the user to be able to come to a decision about which firm they should reach out to. So I think that's a good first step, right? Is just seeing what it's like, how it's presenting the information, seeing where your gaps are on your individual pages. Then you can start thinking about structure on your pages, calling out those key characteristics as headlines on your actual page, making sure you have a really good answer for them. Pricing is one of those pieces. Like if you're willing to share your pricing, that's going to be a clear differentiator. ChatGPT will always bring back pricing as part of the response, right? When it's trying to compare and contrast on the bottom of the funnel searches. And then you can also just ask ChatGPT to reference your firm's weaknesses, right? As it relates to the competitors. And you can start to see exactly how it's pulling the information and what information it's referencing. So I think that is a great way to optimize for ChatGPT, where you're actually going to have a little bit more success versus trying to spend too much time on educational blog articles, right? Stephen, I don't know, what would you say to that? A little bit of a diatribe from me.
No, that's really good. I think we'll get to this later, but just we'll definitely get to this later. But again, we're thinking about the audience, and for most of our firms, their ideal client is $1 million or more in investable assets, somewhere around that level. And so we're thinking about those people and how they go through the process of finding and selecting a financial advisor. Right? So keep all of that in mind, I guess, because everything we're saying here is built for that audience in mind, I guess, right? So, if you're going after people who have 100,000 in assets, there's probably, we could come up with a different podcast of what you would be looking for and how you would be approaching the ChatGPT bottom of the funnel search and so on and so forth. But I think for now, that's like perfect what you said. And then last thing, pricing wise, we've done an episode on pricing. If you haven't listened to that one, please do. You don't have to put pricing on your website. But if you do, there's a whole spectrum of pricing information that you can share. So you don't have to completely open the book and show people exactly, down to a dollar amount of what they're going to pay, but at least answer the question. If you can at least answer the question with your ideal prospect in mind of like, what do I pay and what do I receive in exchange? ChatGPT will find that and reference it. And oftentimes it's bolded. It's like it looks like it's a huge emphasis for how ChatGPT is bringing its answer to you. So that's good. Okay, nice. How about reputation?
Okay. So reputation is, you can optimize all you want and like pull out all the weaknesses and, hey, here's what ChatGPT is emphasizing with your competitors. So you're going to make sure you put that on your site and really like talk it up. And I know in our previous episode, Steve, when we talked about using numbers, like ChatGPT loves using numbers as like evidence-based examples. And so it'll reference them. It'll pull it straight from the text, right? You can spend all the time you want doing that. But if the reputation that you have online is lackluster, you're not going to have as high of a chance of showing up as one of those top 3 firms for those bottom of the funnel searches. So what do I mean by reputation? I mean having testimonials on your website, right, that it references. I mean, all of your profiles across the internet, right, like anywhere that you can get a rating, making sure that you have a solid rating, right, making sure that you have 5 stars. I mean, Yelp, I mean, Wealth Tender, right, like all these different avenues. And you can go into ChatGPT and like pull your ratings for your firm and seeing what it's referencing. But Yelp's a huge one, right, that it pulls. We are seeing a lot of success with Wealth Tender getting referenced a lot. And so this idea of like if you have a Wealth Tender account, pulling in your Google profile reviews into your Wealth Tender to sort of like help optimize is a good pathway, good idea for what you can do. It's interesting. Google profile, like your Google business profile, is not technically sourced by ChatGPT. However, that's just a key profile rating piece that you would want to make sure that you have optimized because there's so many people on Google, right? It's the sliver of people on AI search at this point, and probably forever, to be honest with you. That's just my take, but it's so small comparatively, right, to Google, that I think Google's important, but all these other entities are really important. And then I will say, like, back to the educational blog article question, there's a lot of value about your expertise on particular topics that you want to get reference for. There is still a lot of value on being like cited, your brand, your firm name, your personal name being cited across a lot of sources on the internet. So I don't just mean like your blog, trying to post as much as you can on your blog, right? Because we've just talked about how you're not going to be able to drive a lot of traffic. But if you write about your topic and you're seen as an expert across multiple websites, especially like websites that ChatGPT deems as important, that is a huge reputation boost, right? So that you're going to show up higher. So citations across multiple websites, your reputation, your rankings, and then really optimizing for what ChatGPT sees as potential weaknesses for your firm and strengths of other firms. I think that's the way in 2026 you put yourself in the best possible position to optimize for these bottom of the funnel searches.
Yeah,
Would you add
excellent.
anything to that, Stephen?
No, just think about the feeling when ChatGPT gives you a chart and it's comparing, your firm and two other firms, and it's got a matrix, and it's got different columns, right? Like you mentioned, there's pricing, there's reputation, there's services, there's specialties, there's credibility, all these different things it comes up with, and then you see again, it'll be in bold most likely. Your firm has a 3.2 and the two other firms next to it have a 5.0. Oof, that's a tough look. I don't know who goes past that and says, oh yeah, cool, I'm still going to talk to the 3.2 one, and just treat them the same as I would the five-star firms. I don't think we think that way as consumers, right? It's like automatically, it's like your guard is up. You're kind of like, ooh, what's wrong with them? They must have really, who knows? So that is really important, the reputation. I'd say too, the other thing you just said, about citations across the internet, basically, like mentions across the internet. So just how do people do that though? That's like podcast appearances, even guest blogs, you could say, COI marketing that you're doing, any kind of collaboration marketing that you can especially if you can pair up with somebody who has a decent sized audience and demonstrate to them how you're going to add value to their audience somehow, if it's a video, if it's a podcast appearance, if it's something written, whatever it may be. Those are really important, right? I mean, any other ideas there as far as how people can show up?
Oh, yeah.
Right, like be referenced across the internet that feeds back like this?
Well, yeah, I mean, so just a simple one, YouTube's still referenced a lot in citations, like responses back. I haven't seen it in as many bottom of the funnel type sources, like when I go in and examine, like, where's it pulling from? But it is referenced a lot just with educational content. So that's just one I want to make sure that we mention. We talked about that in our last episode. And then Reddit's another huge one, and which makes perfect sense. Nice. Because Reddit's in almost every search result page on Google. And so it makes a lot of sense that if your brand name is being referenced, or you as an advisor is being referenced a number of times, like, that's going to increase the likelihood that you show up. I would also say that just like localized searches seem to do really well with these bottom of the funnel type searches. And there's a lot of like top 10 lists that ChatGPT will pull from when it's trying to build the answer for how to rank like the top 3 that it gives you from that initial result. So those top 10 lists can be, expertise.com. Some of these like ones that are specific to the bigger cities, they can be really helpful to show up on those lists. Now, it's tough to get on those lists, right? But awards too, like being referenced in Forbes. We just had a client who just was talking about nominations for the USA Today, top advisory firms. Probably wouldn't have thought about that a year or two ago, but now it's like, I want to do that because there's the potential we can show up on USA Today news, and that would be referenced, right, as like part of the reputation for these AI search results. So those are just like some other ideas. I do think like what you said about being guests on podcasts, or another massive way that we haven't talked about is just like the whole PR piece, right? Like you being referenced, like you being sourced as an expert on like stockoptions.com, or one of these Forbes articles, or a New York Times article. Like that is huge in terms of you being referenced as a resource, especially if the prompt itself is bottom of the funnel. That's very like specific and niche, right? Like going back to the San Carlos example, I'm looking for an advisor in San Carlos that can help me with my stock options. Being referenced in a LA Times or San Francisco Times publication, or a New York Times as it relates to stock options, can be really like powerful in ChatGPT, bringing in all those different variables and having you show up as like one of the higher ranked sources.
Right. So one of our hot predictions is there's a resurgence of PR in the interest of bottom of the funnel LLM, in the interest of showing up in bottom of the funnel results for different LLMs like ChatGPT. Yeah. Nice.
Yep. And then like the last thing is just like this whole conversation is sort of like, And the reason we have doing this episode is just such a hot button issue. Like, I mean, I'm sure you guys as advisors are getting hit up constantly about AI search showing up. But take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, right? Because like even the prompt that I'm talking about with bottom of the funnel, we've already had episodes on this. Like, how many of your $2 million potential prospects are searching for an advisor? The first thing that they do is they go to Google or AI. Now, if we're saying that more and more people are using AI, right? Like, how many people are using that as their first reference point? Probably not as high as you might think. It hasn't been our experience. It's really low. They go, and we did an episode on like how affluent investors are looking for advisors, right? Where we said, what was it, Stephen? 40% are either turning first to a friend or colleague or their CPA as the
COI.
Initial starting point.
Yeah.
Like as a COI. So again, like I almost feel like it's a little bit like icing on the cake in some of the cases to be able to get a lead from AI in this way where they found us on AI, right? If they're a good qualified lead, because I just think that there's so many other avenues and channels, right? That for most firms, they're better to focus on first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you would add anything to that.
Right. So just to try to summarize then, what's the, I like this internal prompt we have then is just sort of, what's the point of content marketing overall then anyways, with all this, all the things we're doing, all the things we just talked about, the Reddit, the PR, the blogging, the anything, all the Forbes stuff, like what are we trying to do then? I mean, well, really, if you think about it, and this is all within one other thing, this is all within the context of, I talk to people on a daily basis who say, I've got the referral thing figured out. I'm good there. Trust me, I'm good. I just need more digital leads, or I just need to open up another lead channel that I can diversify and help grow my business organically. Okay, I hear you. I got it. I also think, so how does content marketing help us do that? We have good data, we have good results, we have good relationships with our clients because we're doing good content marketing and it does help them grow their business. I mean, that's a fact. It just, we have good case studies, we have good testimonials and so on. But it's nuanced, right? It's not what we're doing is not finding out a ChatGPT hack that all of our clients then rank in ChatGPT and they're just getting this inflow of hot qualified leads. Like, that's not reality. It's even the best clients that we've got optimized through the roof, and we've done all the things, and we've got them all positioned perfectly. Like, even those, I mean, they're getting like 5 to 15% of their leads are from ChatGPT or Perplexity or some other LLM. So it's still like a small amount, and it is a hot button topic that like you said, everyone wants to talk about it. Like, get ready, this is but it's still kind of like we're not there yet, folks. So like, just especially for the clients that have $1 million or 2 or 3 or 4 million in investable assets, like you said, we've got to put ourselves in their shoes. How are they doing? They're gonna get referrals. Like, that's not changing. It's human behavior. That's not going to change. So what do we use content marketing for then? A big bulk of what we're using content marketing for is to position your brand, your messaging, your people, to be an elevated, relevant brand to those referrals, so that when you do get the referrals and they're comparing you versus your other two competitors in that matrix, that you shine. Like, your brand is elevated. You demonstrate that you're uniquely positioned to solve their challenges. Personally, you are likable. People can trust you. All those things, like, we're influencing we're influencing really, like, referrals, COIs, your current clients. And yes, we're getting some leads from LLMs. But like we said, it's not like this wave of new leads that everyone's got to freak out or you're going to get left behind. It's not that. Like, that's not the reality. So I think if you're too, I guess, worried that you're going to get left behind with leads coming from LLMs, first of all, you're listening to this, so you're in a good place. Second of all, it's really not that big of a percentage of leads if you're going for the $1 million and up type of clients. So just my advice would be focus on what you're already doing well, try to double down on that, and then maybe 20% of your effort put towards some of the tactics we talked about today, positioning yourself better, optimizing for AI search, because it is, we do see trends, but just, I think like anyone who's hitting the alarm button saying like, oh, you're not getting, that's not true, right? It's just, it's still a small percentage of qualified leads that are coming into our client practices that I think we still have plenty of education to do around this, like understanding the nuance, like we said, between top of the funnel and bottom of the funnel leads from LLMs, and then also the number as that compares to the number of your other leads or the number of your clients where you're getting consolidations. Like those are bigger numbers. So just stay focused on that, right? And I think that would do you that would do you solid. I don't know how else to say it. Yeah, is that a decent summary, Faustin? What else would you add?
I think that's really well said. And I think like the big takeaway from this episode, hopefully, if there's like one takeaway, it's don't think that you're missing out on traffic from AI because AI, ChatGPT is not driving traffic to your page and to anyone's page. And there's not an opportunity there because guess what? The LLM answers the information that you would have put on your page. So like it's just in such an important like understanding, I think, and I just hit on that just to your point, Stephen, because so many people are indicating the opposite in our space right now, and we've just seen no evidence to support that whatsoever.
Excellent. All right, so hopefully you guys enjoyed listening to this. We'll be back with more really soon. Thanks so much, and best of luck with AI search. Thank you.
All right, thank you.